I'm Sam. I'm a Maori. I just have to prove that I belong to you. And maybe you want to keep me around. Hi! Who are you?
There's a new kid in town, and he's really cool.
Tēnā kōrua, ko Bronco tōku ingoa. My guardian, o Papa Tuanaku, our OG mother. She puts up with a lot. Gotcha. Blinking disrespectful. In your Maori, your mountain is your ancestor. They'd be so proud of me if I got to the top. You can be my Sherpa. Carry all my things, make it to the top first, and get no credit. Feel that? What? Power of my mountain.
She's gone to save her mountain, can save her life.
The closer I get, the stronger I get. Yeah!
I reckon she needs us. We're gonna get you to the top, and you're gonna get better.
Stay sharp, otherwise I'm done for. Yeah! Run! Wow!
You're not in any trouble, just want to make sure you're all right.
You're actually in a lot of trouble.
I'm gonna go right to the top. So you better start believing.
Hi everyone, welcome to Carolyn Talks. I'm your host, Carolyn Hines, film critic and journalist, and this is the podcast slash YouTube channel where I speak to film creatives about their world, the world, and what inspires them. And today I'm joined by filmmaker Rachel House to talk about her film, The Mountain, which premiered in the Centerpiece program at the 2024 Toronto International Film Festival. Thank you so much for joining me, Rachel.
Kia ora. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So The Mountain is about these three young people, who are I guess you would call them adventurers, intrepid adventurers, and
Yes.
the film is very reminiscent of some films that were really popular in the 90s about kids going on these grand adventures. There's films like the Airbud films, and then there's films like the Goonies,
Yes.
and those kind of films that really
Personal
made,
favorite of mine. Yes.
right? That's a lot of
Yes.
personal favorites for a lot of us. And and then of course, like more recently, there have been films like Hunt for the Wilder People and those kind of things where kids are the center and like kids are getting to go on these adventures. But for these kids, it's about more than going on an adventure, because one of the kids, she's sick. So so the mountain is kind of metaphorical. It's about the physical mountain that they're trying to reach, this peak, but then the mountain is all these hurdles that they have going through their lives. So first of all, Rachel, talk to me about
Beautifully put.
thank you.
Beautifully
So,
articulated. Yes.
so thank
You
you.
got it. You got it, sis. Love it. Thank you.
So talk to me about where the idea for, first of all, talk to me about creating a story about kids in general, just in general,
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, I mean, I have to give kudos to the original writer, Tom Furness, who wrote the script initially about three young boys who wanted to conquer the mountain, and the lead boy still had the same thing that Sam and our version has as well. And I suppose what I did with the script was really infuse it with Indigenous perspective and knowledge, and also make Sam a girl as well, because I really wanted to, I felt like when I watched films like Stand By Me, for
Yes.
example, I wasn't in there,
Yeah.
so it was really important to me that we see a little girl in that role as well. But it was really an opportunity to share with everybody how Maori feel, our culture feel about mountains, that we see them as living ancestors, and that the environment we're all very connected to the environment as well. And I rewrote Bronco's character to ensure that he navigated everybody who didn't know about Māori culture. He was able to sort of navigate us through that knowledge. Yeah, but really the idea came from Tom Furness, not from me, to have these three kids as the leads. But it was definitely why I chose to do this project. Over the years, I've had some scripts being offered to me to direct, and none of them resonated in the same way. And I think really that's because, as you say, these three kids are at the center of this story, and I wanted to relive some of those experiences that I had as an audience when we watched those amazing films that you just listed before.
Yeah, like I miss those films. Like you mentioned Stamp.
Me
I mean,
too.
that's a classic. Not only because of the theme song, which became a famous hit, but
Yes.
those kind of films are touched very much about and it's funny because I just did another interview with another filmmaker and for her film called Boom, and she is and it's a debut feature film for another more mature female filmmaker. She's around your age, and
Yes.
both of your films are about young people, and I think that's such an amazing thing
Yes.
for young for female directors, in particular female filmmakers, to be using stories about young people as a debut feature film. I just think that's really special. So like
It
this
is
way I give kudos to
fascinating.
her. I give kudos to you. Like
Thank you.
it just
I'll
literally
take
occurred to
that.
me. And it just occurred to me. I'm like,
Thank you. Well, it's
and
magic, it's a
right.
magic time. I mean, we all remember it. We
Mhm.
all carry those memories of when we were kids in our hearts. And so to experience a story like that again, with kids central, it reminds us of who we used to be. And I think as well, it's legacy. It's about legacy. It's about really wanting, these younger generations to be empowered and lead us, you know?
Yeah, I think it's about that, but I think it's also about, the phrase about remaining young at heart is like being able to
Yes,
tap into your younger selves as
yes,
creators. Because as kids, we're
yeah,
so imaginative, which is what the film is about.
yeah,
It's like these kids, like they're using their imaginations to go on this quest, and
yes,
for all of us as kids, we always imagine ourselves running away,
yeah,
but not necessarily for bad
definitely.
situations, but sometimes we envision ourselves just going on these grand adventures,
Yes,
and
yeah,
I think for filmmakers, filmmaking is, as I had mentioned earlier in another interview, is a very labor intensive endeavor, but it's a very imaginative endeavor. Like I'm fascinated with filmmakers because you guys have to build this entire physical world
yeah,
from your imagination, and from the
yeah,
imagination of the writer. And like you have to work with like the cinematographers, costume designers, set producers, set locations, that you gotta build a world from like
yes,
nothing. And I'm fascinated by that. So like I think in order to be a filmmaker, you do have to maintain that sense of wonder and
yes,
imagination. So for you, I'm gonna ask this with regards to like Maori culture, because Maori culture is so very much connected to the environment and to nature
yes,
and to the
yes,
believing in things that we can't see. I think how
yes.
important is that for you, and how important does that how much of a role does that play in your position, just as in imagination as a filmmaker? Like how inspired are you by that?
Well, really inspired. I think this concept of being connected to the environment as family is something that we could all, benefit from. Like if
Right.
we all started to understand that, nature is intrinsically connected to us and older than us, way older than us, and it deserves to be respected. I sort of I know, with Bronco's character, for example, he is very much the guardian. He sees himself as a guardian of Mother Earth. And I feel like it's a wonderful time for us to consider, these concepts and beliefs, for all of us to be guardians, in order to protect and hold on to what we have, which is so precious, you know. So yeah, it's these beautiful concepts that we have in our culture. Yeah, I just am always inspired by that knowledge, ever since I started to learn about it, I think, and will continue to be inspired, yeah, by those beautiful beliefs and value systems. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's important because it keeps you grounded, right? It keeps you grounded as a
Yeah,
filmmaker, and it
yeah,
keeps and it reminds you like it reminds you about what's important to you. You know, like don't get
yeah.
too swept away by things, and it keeps you
No,
reminded like I'm going to use film to remind people what my culture is. You know what we believe, and I think
yeah.
that's a great way to do it. And I think filmmaking and films are a great medium for
Mm.
teaching culture and for teaching people about how different people see their own culture. Like, for instance,
I
you're telling
could
this
not
from
agree more. Yeah,
right. You're telling from two different perspectives. You're telling from Sam's perspective
yes,
and from the perspective of Bronco. You know, and so like
yes.
you're showing how even within the same culture, people have different perspectives on it.
Oh, absolutely. We are so nuanced,
Mhm.
and I think there's a lot of, unfortunate broad strokes that have been made, about various cultures. And as we know, it's far more nuanced and detailed than that. And it was really important to show those two sort of polar opposites from the same culture because that exists, and there's everything else in between as well, you
Mm.
know. And I guess that's what often happens as well with Indigenous culture, because we were colonized and we had a lot of it taken away from us, and we've had to fight really hard to retain and restore it, and so as a result of that, we are very nuanced in regards to our levels of knowledge, etc. Yeah,
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 and the thing is like because you have Sam and Bronco, but you have Mallory who kind of
yes,
sits on the outside. So he's the
yes,
observer learning about these perspectives from just the way the audience is.
yeah,
And is I've been thinking about how people internationally in particular paying more attention to Maori culture and to indigenous cultures, not only just in Australia and New Zealand, but globally. Um, and I think one of the most important things to that is like, for instance, the haka. You know, like people
yes.
when
I
like
know
for
everyone loves the haka. Yes,
and one of the reasons I'm from Barbados, so one of the reasons that I love the haka is what that it represents. Paying homage to the ancestors and paying homage to that. And I legitimately, I'm not even being hyperbolic. Like every time I hear or see a performance of a haka, it
yeah,
takes me back home. You know, it takes me back,
that's beautiful.
and I imagine my ancestors in Africa and like how for like Black people all over the world we use music as a
Yeah,
touchstone for our
yeah,
culture, for our history that we were robbed of, you know. And I kind of
yes,
see like from Maori, like you guys, you're like claiming it, you know, you're taking it back.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I know like specific cultural aspects of Maori culture, like for instance, like the tattoos were
yes,
outlawed, you know, and like for
yes,
a while, like Maori, you couldn't perform the haka publicly,
yeah,
you know, and like a lot of just like for the Native Americans and the Indigenous First Nations people of Canada, like they were the
yeah,
residential schools, you know,
yes,
and so
yes,
like
yes,
you're so for like for you as a filmmaker, and then for like even like the athletes play rugby and who perform haka, just for like that you're showing the world like we're reclaiming it and we're putting it into this thing that we have. Because you know what, I just the word just came to me, but like is for instance, rugby came from the colonizers, you know, filmmaking came from the colonizers because, you know,
mm,
filmmaking starting in Hollywood. But you're like, we're going to
mm.
use these tools
Oh
that
yeah,
you brought to us and we're going to put our culture back into it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so,
yeah,
talk to me about using film for that because, again, like the characters of Sam and Bronco are very much about that, you know? They're like,
yes.
I think they're like your youth,
Reclamation.
right? They're like the version of reclamation. And again, like at the beginning, you talked about using the younger generation and instilling that in the younger generation. How much more important that is today, especially with
Yes,
like social media and the influence of social media
yes.
and like how important is that for you to use the younger characters for that?
I mean, super important. I think it's really important for all of, I mean, as you said, these are fantastic points you're making, that we've got to really utilize these wonderful Western tools that we have available to us to, we know they're powerful. We know that film can reach a huge audience all over the world. We understand, and social media, as you say. So, what better way to spread, stories from our culture and culture itself. As you say, you love to watch our haka and being performed, and I mean, that means that we live on, you know, and that our culture is strong, you know, because it's being received globally, you know. So it's a way of empowering and retaining
Mm.
our culture. I think these are beautiful points that you're making. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah,
so we have to carry on doing that, you know,
right. You have to,
right?
because
Yeah,
it's lost so I think it's harder. It's easier to lose it than it is to reclaim it. You know, so you got
yeah,
to put in all of
yeah,
that effort.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like at the beginning, I mentioned how the mountain is a metaphor. And so for you, like in this film, so the mountain that they're going for is called Taranaki
Taranaki, yeah.
Maunga.
Maunga, yeah, yeah,
Maunga.
yeah.
Okay.
Very good, very
Oh,
good.
thank
Yeah,
you. So, first of all, talk to me about the significance of that mountain for
yeah,
you and for the
yeah,
film, but also for the
yeah,
characters, because it represents like the personal challenges that they're facing. You know, like these three
yes,
kids, like people look at kids as think some kids don't have problems, but kids, they're human. So of course they have problems, right? And they have these own,
mm,
and they
mm,
have these obstacles and these challenges that they each are dealing with. So talk to me first
yes,
about the significance of that mountain to Maori
yeah,
culture, but then also to the
yes,
film and to these characters.
yes. So tribally, we all connect to a mountain. Like that's always one of our identifiers,
Mm,
as from where we're from, what our genealogy is. So Taranaki Mountain has 8 tribes living
mhm,
around at the base of our maunga, and I connect to 2 of those tribes.
mhm,
So when I got the script initially from Tom, the mountain wasn't named, and I
mm,
thought that was my starting point to rework the script because I thought, well,
okay.
this is really important. To me, it felt very odd that he hadn't named the mountain, but then I
Mm,
really needed to. I felt like what a great opportunity to discuss the significance of mountains to us culturally.
mm,
Um, you're absolutely right. It is metaphoric, but it is also about identity. So Sam's big quest is to know her Māori identity, and she believes that Taranaki is, you know, she belongs to Taranaki. Like Taranaki is her maunga,
mhm,
um, and that will help her discover who she is. She also believes that once she makes that connection with the mountain, she will also potentially be cured as well, because such is her respect, you know, for that mountain, and
mm,
respect for her as a young Māori girl, you know, as a
mm,
young Māori person. Um, but what she learns along the way is that it's not about conquering, it's about listening to nature, it's about listening to friendship, it's about listening to the mountain themselves, and understanding that, you know, nature will always be there long after we go, you
hopefully,
know,
if we don't destroy it anyway,
if we
because
don't,
like,
yeah, we're not gonna.
ooh, because what is
I
happening with
know,
our climate change is crazy.
it's crazy, it's
It's
crazy.
crazy. And I know we have to wrap soon because I know you have a hard out for at 1:40. So the last thing I'm gonna ask is you mentioned the two tribes. Can you name the two tribes for me, please? And
Oh
just
yeah.
to like acknowledge them and say a bit about them.
Please, I'd love that. Thank you for reminding me. These are the things I should always be doing. So
It's
thank you.
okay.
Ko Ngati Mutunga, ko Te Atiawa, o Ku
Mm,
Iwi. Yeah,
mm.
yeah. They're
And
my two.
can you talk about what those two tribes mean to you specifically personally?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I used to, yeah, for me, it was about, discovery of my identity. So what they mean to me is in essence, my, heart,
Mm,
a big part of my heart. Yeah.
mhm,
Um, because they guide me, and they help me acknowledge who I am. Yeah.
mhm,
They help me identify who I am. Yeah, who I
mm,
belong to, where I belong in the world. And it's always a place to, a touchstone always. Yeah. To,
Mm.
to feel empowered by. Yeah.
And would you say that that was your own personal Taranaki Maunga?
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. It's been a challenging journey back to my people, back to my tribes. But so I'm incredibly grateful to have that knowledge myself. But I also wanted to, I think, within the film, really acknowledge chosen family. Sam may never meet her father. Well, I don't know that she ever got to meet her father. We did have an alternate ending where she did, but we decided that it was stronger that she had found chosen family with Bronco and with Mallory and with their families. So I wanted to give that message as well, have that at its core as well, that it's okay. If you have chosen family, you've got family,
Yeah. Yeah. And I love
Yeah.
films about chosen
Yeah.
family. I love film about us being
Me
able
too.
to
Me
just
too.
to be intentional, like we
Yeah.
that's something we get to control in our lives because there's so much of things in our lives that are out of control.
That's true.
So I
That's
love those
true.
kind
And
of
it doesn't
stories.
always work out with our own family, so it's wonderful to have that chosen family.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But I know you have to go, but thank you so much for taking the time for talking to me,
Thank
Rachel. I
you.
really
I
appreciate this.
really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've
And
wonderful insights. Thank you so much.
thank you and congrats.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye,
Have a good
darling.
day.
Bye.